I'm going to talk to you now about contour dots and how we use it to prevent gaping on our necklines. Now, for some of you, this might be the first time that you're hearing of contour dots. If you have done my pattern making basic course as well, we do go into detail on how the contour dots work, where we can use it as well. But for this course now, I am actually just going to concentrate on that one line, and that is for that neckline to prevent any gaping. Now, we do have another way of doing it as well. If you look at your dress kit and you look at page 19, it's going to tell you note gaping front neckline, and it's going to take you through the steps on how you can prevent gaping as well on that neckline. Now, I do use this method sometimes when I am designing, and then other times I do find I go to my contour dots, especially when I am working with this sort of pattern. And remember, we are working with an underlayer, which is our v-neck, and then we've got the yoke that is actually going over it. So I actually prefer then going to my contour dot. Now, contour dots are being used quite, I want to say almost everywhere if you are really into your pattern design. If you've got any pattern design books, you will also note that it might have contour dots in there. So I've got my pattern making for fashion design. This is one of my books that I've got the contour dots in, but I do have one or two other books also with the contour dots in. Now, contour dots really is for, as I said, preventing that gaping before we actually go and cut out our fabric. We already fine-tuning our pattern. Now, what happens when we do our necklines? If I'm going in on the shoulder, if I'm going down lower on the chest area, we do lose stability of that fabric. Our shoulders, if we're using that full shoulder length, actually stabilize that fabric. But as soon as I go in a little bit, as soon as I drop it, then we find that the fabric over the, just let's say above the fullness of the bust area, we find that it can gape because of the curve of going around and then slightly in as well. So this is really going to help us now sort this out. Now, if we look at the image that I have here, this is actually part of the notes in the pattern making basics, and you can see there is a lot of contour dots that we can use. We use it for our strapless tiles, or if we are really going with thin straps on the shoulder line as well. If I'm doing crossovers, I've got that contour dot over there as well. So there's quite a bit that we can do with our contour dots on the front. But for today, really, I'm adding this note for you as well. Please make sure you do download it so that you can keep it on file. This is just the steps that we are going to be doing, and I'm not going to be doing it on the shoulder area at all because of the overlay of that yoke. I am just going to concentrate on that contour dot that we have. But really, if I look at my book that I've got in front of me, and again I'm just going to mention it, it's the Pattern Making for Fashion Design by Helen Joseph Armstrong. It is an amazing book. I've got the ebook and I printed it, and it's a lot of pages. I actually had to do 3 of these books. But on page 161, they really go into detail on the contour dots, and you can see that contour dot that we have there is really similar to my note that I've done over there. And the amount that we're also going to use when we're going to go in, we are working on the bust circle, and the amount that we're taking in is really also a standard measurement that we're working with, and it says that it's 1/4 of an inch that we are going to be working with when we are doing this step. So let's go back to the pattern now, and we are going to do a contour dot on our pattern so that we can take it out, and whatever we're going to take out on this neckline, we are going to just move it over to our bust dot. Now, first off, I went and I redid my pattern piece because I wanted to make sure that there's not excessive lines anywhere that I'm confusing you. I drew my yoke on here with my marker, so I couldn't go and erase it. You are going to go and erase it for me. But your pattern really up to this stage, what it looks like is we've got our pattern with the v-neck. This is our pattern piece that we've done with the yoke as well. So that is really all the pattern work done. We are just fine tuning it now. Now let's go and look at what we're going to do for our contour dot. Now our first step when we are working with contour dots is to establish our bust circle, because that is really important. That just above that bust circle is usually where we are going to get that gaping. So I've got to make sure that I am working with the correct measurement here. Now your bust circle is really taking your measuring tape, putting it on the apex, and you are going to go all the way down. I just go onto the bra wire there. I don't go lower than that bra wire to try and almost miss that bra wire. I just go to that area, and when I do that measurement, I do get 10.5 centimeters. My 10.5 centimeters it's just slightly over 4 inches. You are going to work with your own measurement. Please don't use my measurements that I'm going to be working with. So go and do that measurement for me. Now, what you're also going to do, I use a piece of my pattern board, which is nice and stiff, and I just go and draw a line for myself. I go and measure my 10.5 centimeters, or as I said, it's just over 4 inches. I go draw another line, and then I just do a little bit of a cross mark for myself. Then I go and I make holes in it. I literally go, and in this area specifically, I make a hole with my awl so that I can get the tip of my pencil in. And all we're going to do now, I'm going to get my awl in there, and I'm making sure that I'm getting this cross mark over there. And I think you can see it. I'm getting that cross mark onto that cross of my apex. And all I'm going to do now, I'm going to take my pencil, and I am going to go and draw a circle around my apex. Now, depending on the size of your bra cap, you will find that yours will be smaller. If yours is bigger, sometimes you'll find that the circle goes outside of the pattern. That is fine. I'm just interested in really what is happening there for now. So if it is going outside on those areas or here, don't worry about it. We are going to be working on that part of the circle. Now, you will see that I have left my neckline on that area, and I just want to go back to one of my grit lines. I like working on my lines on my cutting board. I have left my neckline there because we need to draw this contour dot into our neckline, not into the line of the V that we've already drawn. So it's very important, and that's why I said please don't go cut out your pattern yet. We've still got some work to do. Now you are going to take this measurement of the neckline, and you're going to mark the halfway mark for me. So let me go and measure my neckline. And I'm just going to be running my measuring tape on there, and I am getting 12 centimeters. So I want to mark 6 centimeters. And I'm just going to make a mark for myself. I think I am going to work in my green. So let's go again. There we go. So that is my halfway mark of my neckline. Now I am going to go and I'm going to draw a straight line back into my apex. So let's grab our ruler. I'm just going to work with my designing stylus for now. And all I'm going to do, I'm going to go and draw a straight line. Our next step now is going to be on this bust circle line, because we need to make sure that we're not working on any other lines. We are working on this bust circle. For now, we've got this neckline over there, we've got a neckline there, so it can be confusing. So we are going to measure in 1/4 inch or 6 millimeter. So from that line that I've drawn towards the center front, I'm going to mark in my 6 millimeters. And I've got it there, and that is our 1/4 inch. Now, as I mentioned, this is a standard measurement. I just want to grab my book again. Let's go to page 161 just to show you. And this is really what everybody works with, is these standard measurements. You can fine tune it if you do find that you need a little bit more gaping that you need to take out. But there you can see standard measurement for our guideline 1, which is basically this guideline going into the neckline, and that is 1/4 inch or 6 millimeters that we're working with. So I've done my mark over there. I'm going to, from my apex, I'm going to go and draw onto that mark that I've measured on the bust circle, and then from the bust circle I'm going back to my original mark on the neckline. So now it looks like that. Now every time we work with a neckline, the lower I go, you can see, the bigger the amount is that I'm going to take out, because I'm going to close this contour dot that I've created on the neckline that I've drawn. So if it is a higher neckline, it's really a small amount that I'm going to be taking out. If I'm going with a very deep neckline, look at what's happening. Can you see the lower I go, the bigger that measurement or that dot volume that I'm removing is going to be. For now, that is the amount, and I'm going to circle it in a pencil just so that you know. This is where we are closing up the dot, not on the bust circle. So many times I see ladies do this change, but they go and close this area. This is just my guide that I've used to draw this contour dot. So I'm stressing this, please don't go close it there. We are closing it on the drawn neckline. Now, with any dots where we take out a certain amount of volume, it's got to be transferred to somewhere else on my pattern. That is our dot manipulation. Now, you do have information in your dress kit on dot manipulation. Glenda has a lot of videos on dot manipulation as well on YouTube. And then I have also done a lot of dot manipulation in my designs that I'm doing, because I work so much with my dress kit. I love doing dot manipulation. So I'm going to take whatever volume I'm taking out there, I am going to transfer it into my bust dot. Now, when we do any dot manipulation, we've got to connect this dot to our apex. If I am going to transfer the volume of this dot to anywhere on my pattern, I would go and draw from that dart leg into my bust point, from that dart leg into my bust point. I create a designer's dot, and then I will move it to wherever I need to take it. I'll close this dot, open it somewhere else. We can move it to the armhole, we can move it to the neckline. I can literally go to a French dot. I've got a French dot top on at the moment that I've done. I love the French dots. I can go put it into my waist dot. For now, there's no waist dot because we are doing a flowy top. So that is our regular dot manipulation. With this now, I'm just going to increase the volume of this dot. So I'm not going to go and do the steps where I would go from that dart leg tip over there to the bust point, and from there to the bust point. I'm just going to take the center of my dot, and I'm just going to draw my line all the way to my bust point so that I can move the volume into here. I'm just going to open it up, making this dot a little bit bigger. Now, when we do our dot manipulation, I'm going to put my tape on there. This is going to be our pivot point. I don't want to cut through on this point, so this needs to be connected. Now, on this line that I'm going to be cutting, I want you to cut on the straight line. You are not going to cut on this angled line for me, only on the straight line, and we are going to cut through on this dot line that we have over there. So I'm just going to turn it this way around so I can cut from this side. So any dot manipulation always gets connected to our bust point over there. I'm going to turn it this way so I can just cut from this side. And into the apex. So now you can see my bust point is my hinge. This is where I can do the movement for closing up any dots, opening it up anywhere else. And let's just see if I just go, I don't want to cut all the way through, but let's just see if I can lift it. I think that's going to be adequate. There we go. Now, like I mentioned, and I am repeating this because this is where the mistakes happen. Please don't take this and close it on the bust circle. Then you are taking out too much. We want to close it up on where our neckline is drawn. And like I said, the lower the neckline, the more volume we're going to take out to compensate for that loss of stability on that neckline that we've got. So all I'm doing, I'm closing it. Can you see this line there? I'm going to that green line, and I'm just going to close it up there. So it is just a little bit that we're taking out, but you cannot believe, let's just make sure it's there, how much it helps to prevent the gaping on your top. Now, I'm not going to be touching on it today, but just for interest's sake for you, we do have, and I'm just grabbing this page again because this is going to be on the page, we do have a contour dot on the front over there, and we have a contour dot on the back, on that shoulder line. And I just wanted to talk to you about it, even though we're not going to be using it today. This contour dot is also, again, when I am going in on the shoulder line. And that just gives me that slight curve, which is really similar to what's in your dress kit book on page 19. On page 19 there, it lets you drop it on the neckline and you go redraw that shoulder line on the front. Now, with this technique, if we are using contour dots, you would get the halfway mark of the shoulder line, and on that halfway mark, you would drop 1/8 of an inch or 3 millimeter. It is such a tiny amount that we're dropping, but you're also doing it on the back. And then wherever your neckline connects to that new line that I've drawn, that gives me the angle of the shoulder line that I'm going to use. And like I mentioned, it's going to be on your back and on your front. If you look at my bodice front, bodice back, you can see it's on both that I am dropping it. And again, just changing that angle slightly just lifts up that V-neck for us a little bit. Now, also going back to our pattern here, you can see that I've closed it, and whatever I closed, that is the amount that's opened up on my pattern. It automatically happens. It's really a plus and a minus when we are working with flat patterns. I don't have to guess it. Automatically this change is going to happen. So all you are going to do, you are going to take a piece of vellum for me, and we are going to just place it at the bottom so that we can just go redraw this line, just perfect this line for ourselves. I'm just going to do that for now so that I can draw my line. Now I'm just going to make sure that where this point is, can you see it just shifted a little bit? I'm just doing it really in the middle of that opening. I'm just changing that point a little bit, because with whatever that opening is halfway there, that is our new line that we're going to draw. I'm going to go to my red marker so that you can clearly see this now. So I'm just going to take it from that midsection, and you can see I'm going back to my apex. Look at that. I'm just drawing it all the way to the apex. Can you see that? So that amount that's open there, and I'm just going to measure it just for interesting sake. I think let me go with this so you can see on the white. That amount that's open there, with a pencil it might measure more, but it's about a 1/2 centimeter. It's just less than a 1/4 of an inch that I've opened up, that I've increased the size of my dart. So that is then, as I said, whatever we took out here, we've just transferred it to there. Now, wherever this point was on my red line that I've drawn, I'm just going to redraw. But you can see doing it this way, there is not a major change to my dart because I've added the volume in there. So that is that done. Now you can see on my neckline that I've just got to go through that line as well. So all I'm going to do there is I'm going to take my designing stylus, I'm going to pick up my curve again, and I'm just going to redraw it. That is my line done for my neckline now. So we will find that this is adequate, especially on our woven fabric that we're working with, just to bring it in a little bit on this area.